Welcome to episode 9. PR is measurable, and here's how.
Welcome to the PR Playbook Podcast with Ranjini Joshua, the only podcast that teaches you how to strategically navigate the world of public relations and social media and grow a powerful brand.
Hello, and welcome to episode 9. Today, we'll be talking about building in KPIs to keep your communications program accountable. We are definitely on a roll here, so we've been pumping out these podcasts. I do want to be excused for some of our connection issues since we are doing a lot of these from home, and we have a little bit of a Wi-Fi issue in some cases. So if you miss something or if you're unclear of what's been said, feel free to email me, and we will clear it up for you. I'm not going to say I'm not tired, but we are pushing forward. And it's so funny because I've heard a lot of, everyone's working from home, so they have lots of time. But I don't think we've got any extra time in our day unless you were commuting a couple hours before. The time situation hasn't changed. And I've been working remotely for at least the last 4 years. So definitely I almost feel like less time to do all the work that needs to be done. And a lot of people are, strapped with resources. So that said, time is a huge challenge for everyone. And I know when we work for brands and mostly startups for us or companies that are launching new products, one of big looming question is, how much time is it going to take to get results? And so I thought measurements and KPIs for short-term plans, it was a good place to start. Traditionally, PR has been one communications practice that is a little bit difficult to measure and quantify. But I think the only reason it's been difficult is because actual PR and branding actually have, they have long-term benefits. So beyond the content that you produce, the articles that you get, the interviews that you secure, those live on in the media pretty much forever. And so you sometimes get residual benefits from that. It's kind of like, I would compare it to that of the music industry. When you're creating a hit song, you get like the biggest impact when the song first releases, and then you get those residuals as the years go by, as people are still listening to your music. So it's kind of, I think that's a good analogy, but it is kind of difficult to measure in the long term. But there are some short-term measurements that you can kind of for sure see if something is working or not. And you want to make sure that you'll be able to measure these activities and kind of just confirm that what you're spending, you're getting an ROI for that spend. And most marketing activities are a little bit more easy to measure because you're measuring traffic, spend, user acquisition costs, but you can still kind of track that same kind of level of measurement by establishing some basic key performance indicators or KPIs for PR programs and communications programs. So today, I wanted to talk about how to measure your PR program in the short term. And you can always bet that your PR program is actually doing more than your basic KPIs, especially when you're looking at earned credibility, earned media, anything in that earned space. So I have 5 key ways to measure, and we can go through these pretty quickly. One is set up your monthly KPIs. And while it's not always easy to track and map these directly, having some kind of minimum metrics is a really good bar. And that's typically what we do with our customers and clients is we say, okay, this is kind of the minimum of what we're looking at. And these are the minimum accomplishments just to track the activity, make sure everything's moving forward. So first, you want to make sure everything's moving forward. Some things that you could measure and some basic KPIs may include measuring the number of interviews you've secured, the types of pitch angles that you're executing on, the content that's been created, and those are maybe actual articles or pitches or press releases, article placements, so things that have actually placed and appeared online, and then secured interviews, which is just conversations that you're having with the media. They may or may not result in an article or a podcast, but it's kind of a relationship building activity. And sometimes when we contribute content, also just as a side note, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks for those pieces to come out. So securing placement, writing an article, and seeing the placement are all 3 different kinds of measurements. So just keep that in mind when you're working with your PR agency or your freelancer or your person, that these are all different activities that take time to execute. Number 2, measure activity of deliverables. So are you getting things done? Are you checking things off the box? And that's always a really first and key measurement, whether it's content or anything else. Typically, the way we track these is in our agency, we have weekly calls and we use action items. So just checking off the list of action items, and you can usually get a monthly report from your agency of, okay, this is what we spent. This is how much time we've spent in these various categories. So measure the activity of the deliverables. Third is monitor the media. So when we secure media opportunities, and we're highly intentional, we believe in quality over quantity most of the time. Now, sometimes we'll go over quantity, but you really want to check and make sure that you're reaching target publications and what the audience reach is of those publications. So you can check on any online traffic by checking the monthly traffic numbers, which is typically UMV, unique monthly visitors, to get a gauge on the reach of any articles that have been placed or interviews that have been mentioned. You can use a website that we like to use, similarweb.com, and it'll give you the traffic of most websites, even some blogs that are highly trafficked. So monitor the reach of the media so you can see what your potential reach may have been in any given article. Another kind of caveat or subcategory of this is really monitoring the reach of social based on what's been posted. So if a media outlet has posted your article and they post it on Instagram, they post it on Twitter, they post it on Facebook, you can get a rough idea of the reach by looking at how many people shared, liked, tweeted, those kinds of things. And then also do that on your own social. Always cross promote to magnify that reach. 4, link tracking. So this is a very, very scientific way, I guess, to measure. Link tracking is really great. Using Bitly links is one way to do some link tracking, very basic link tracking. You use a Bitly link, you can generate on Bitly for free and then go through and see how many times that link has been clicked and shared. Or if you're a little bit more sophisticated and you have Google Analytics on your side and everything's set up, you can use Google Analytics to check the traffic of incoming sources. So a lot of times if you, let's say, for example, you get something published in Huffington Post, you can go into your incoming sources and see the Huffington Post link and how many people are coming to your website from the Huffington Post link. So Google Analytics is obviously a very easy and great way. And then there's also other link tracking ways to be able to figure out what sources are bringing traffic into your website. But I think Google Analytics is probably the most common that I've seen in any customers that we've worked with. And your PR agency can track this directly if you want to give them access to your Google Analytics, or you can look it up, maybe map it to your monthly report and say, okay, these are the pieces of coverage that we've gotten. These are the links to the stories. Let's see what kind of traffic they're bringing in. And that way you can quantify exactly how many visitors they're bringing in. Ask the customer, lastly, number 5. So this may seem a little bit more rudimentary and raw, but your sales teams may have a short set of questions when they maybe survey customers or talk to them of, the basic question of, how did you find out about us? So that is a very easy way. And I've had actually, and it may sound too simple, but I've actually had people say, oh, I saw that Forbes article, and so I wanted to check you out. So I think that is still a very easy way. Just simply ask or survey your customer when they get to the sales cycle. I hope these 5 basic things can give you, or begin at least to give you some insight on how to measure your PR program in the short term. Long-term benefits, you'll be able to see, I think, a little bit more. I would say anything after 3 months, you can get a good feel for what kind of articles, what kind of content, what kind of outlets are bringing traffic into your sales team. But the 5 short-term KPIs or the 5 short-term metrics is number 1, actually set up monthly KPIs. Number 2, measure activity of deliverables. Number 3, monitor the activity of the media and social media. Number 4, link tracking. Number 5, survey or ask your customer. There are definitely various methods for different PR firms. Any firm that's worth their salt, though, will be happy to work with you to determine the most viable KPIs and measurements for your program. Although it's not always 100% concrete, you'll be able to tell, at least if your program is moving forward in the right direction with a trajectory that's matching the money that you're putting in to public relations. And I know that's a big concern for most people. I'm paying for it, but I'm not sure what I'm paying for. There shouldn't be any point that you're unclear, that you don't know what you're paying for. PR is not that elusive where the PR agency shouldn't be able to explain exactly what you're getting for your money. There's a lot of things that go into a good communication program. So this might not encompass everything, but it will give you a really good gauge of activity that's being done on your behalf. Some of it might be service oriented and some of it is going to be brand awareness oriented, but it's a good place to start measuring things. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to weigh in on the nuances of different PR programs and measurement. So feel free to email us directly. We were having some issues with the submission process over the last couple of weeks. So if you did submit an email to podcast@thesilvertelegram.com, we did not receive it. And I'm very sorry for that. We are going to repost our contest from earlier this last month. And the email is now working. So podcast@thesilvertelegram should reach us directly. We've got everything squared away. But that's growing pains of a new podcast. So I appreciate you hanging in there with us. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions for topics, please email me at podcast@thesilvertelegram.com. I'm anxious to see your comments and questions in a good way. That's all for now. Stay healthy, positive, and have a beautiful weekend. See you next time.